here. The staff meeting and back. So we are going to get started. We are going to videotape and post this online, hopefully. We do have another curriculum night in here at 6 o'clock. So we're going to try to be fairly quick. Provide some information, answer some questions. If it's very specific to your student, specific teacher, for privacy reasons, you can email all of us or give us a call. We can schedule a time to talk one-on-one if it's a very detailed, specific thing. We want to talk to you guys, and I'm going to actually talk to you about how we're going to communicate here in a second, but I'm going to let Mr. Rogers, before she walks back out the door, if he has anything to say.
I was just going to say welcome. First of all, just welcome. Thanks for coming. It's been a really, really good start. What do you think? I mean, compared to, remember, because most of you were here last year, first day of school, if you remember that day. Okay, so we've come a long way, right? And so thank you for being here. It's been a really good start. We got a fresh coat of paint. The building's looking good. Your kids have been great. And so I just want to say kudos to y'all because it takes all of us. It takes a village. And just say thank you. The team's got a lot out here that they're going to share with you. We've got PTO in the cafeteria, lots of spirit wear. Tomorrow's Lucky Buck, which means you get to wear jeans and spirit shirts. So make sure you get your new spirit stuff next door. And then I also had a message from our board. We actually have 2 openings on the board right now. And so they told me to reach out to you and see if anybody is interested and if you are to put your name in the hat for that. We have 2 spots that are open on the school board right now. Other than that, I'll let 5th grade take it away. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. So I'm Mr. Clark. If you've not met me, I am Blue Science. I also got the loud voice, so I get to do the speaking tonight. Miss Hofer. ELR on green, Mr. Hale, Social Studies on blue, Miss Robbins, Math on blue, Miss Crow, ELR on blue, Miss Lamb, Math on green, Miss Earl, Social Studies on green, and Miss Long, Science on green. So lots of team there. Looking at 5th grade, coming together as a group, really talking of, hey, what can we do to work as a group, but also address each need for the kids, and adjusting and fitting, differentiating, and addressing the individual need of kids. We've kind of had this discussion around that. We went to one website with that information. It's easier for us. Same thing with the Remind, which if we get to that, you might want your phone out if you're not on the Remind, because we'll give you a chance to sign up on that. So we've got the 5th grade landing page. You can get this directly from the ACA page. It's got our wonderful picture here of the selfie stick, because everyone likes selfies. On communication, it lists all this, all the ways you can get a hold of us. Email is probably the best. We do encourage everyone to sign up on the Remind. We send out a Remind daily with the assignments that go on for that day. So when your student comes in class, they have their planner. They write down what they're doing that day so you know, hey, you have this classwork assignment. Its name is this. Why is it coming home not finished? Let's talk about that. Hey, you have homework due in a couple of days in science. Have you started that? That way you can have those questions, because we know 5th graders sometimes like to not say the full thing or say, yeah, I did it. Let me see it.
Mr. Clark. That's the school one. Can you scroll down to ours?
Yeah, I can scroll down. We also have the team one here. We are not on the team one yet. You can text 816, still school.
You zoomed in there.
Hey,
Keep
zoomed
going.
in. I love technology. The projector was not working. Now it does.
There we are.
Here we go. So it's at 2019 ACA FIT 81010. So give you guys a second. Anyone needs to put that in. You can also go to the 5th grade webpage. There's a link you can click on and get that information as well. Thumbs up if we're good. 1 more minute. Okay. So we've got that. Zoom back up here. We do also have links to our teacher email. Our conference times, the Blue group goes very early in the morning. It's going to be great because we're first. You can drop your kids off at 8, hang around 10 minutes and come in. Green goes at 9:10 to 9:55. Those are our times where we'll schedule one-on-one conferences during the normal school day. Those are also our conference and planning times. So if there's things going on that we need to get done for class, it may be a couple days before we can get something scheduled to get folks in. We've got our emails for each of the teachers, as well as we have one of those things where it's, hey, I need a teacher to give me a call, I want to schedule something. Instead of going back and forth with email, because we know how email sometimes does, where you send an email and it's 6 hours later, it's now 2 days. We actually have a system that we're trying. Hopefully it works, so bear with us. It's new. If you go to that website, it will show you what's available. So you can look at your calendar and go, hey, this shows that the teachers are available at this time. I'm going to send this request because it's my day that works. If it works for both of us, hey, we're good. If it's one that we've got a conflict, you've said, hey, this is good, we can respond, hey, this just came up, because we know how things at work come up, where it's, hey, I've got to get this. But it cuts down on some of that back and forth email. Trying it, seeing. I know it's already saved like a day's worth of emails back and forth trying to coordinate the schedule. And it can also coordinate schedule between all of the team teachers as well.
Can you scroll to that number, the 817 number?
The remind.
Yeah, stop there to remind real quick. The 81010.
No, actually, the other one below that.
The conference.
The one where we can,
The school phone number.
The school phone number is just that intermediate 817-303-1553.
and that is for what again?
That's the campus phone number.
Thank you.
Welcome. Give me a second, Joe. Okay. We also have the general teacher links for each of the teachers. Knowing that we have assignments, knowing that they have things, we do have direct links for teachers. Some of us use outside websites, some of us use the Google website. I know for me, with the Google website, I can actually put the PDFs of a lot of the materials I use up there, and the kids have access to it. You can have access to it. If they happen to forget something, if they need a digital copy of the book so they don't have to carry the book, that's posted there as well. So you get each of the teachers' websites. And if they are absent or one of those things, you can email up here, but you can also have them go, hey, you need to go to Mr. Hell's website, just ask what assignment do you need to do, and just to check in. If they are absent, they do get the number of days they're absent to make up the work. Sometimes when they're homesick and they're running 105, they're like, I've got to do work. Hey, you're sick. Let's take some of that. Just remember, the stuff that was due has to be turned in when you return. So talking about schedule, this is one that we've talked about as a group to give us a little bit more time. Transitions right now, we've been doing every class every day. And with the 5-minute transition time plus packing up and unpacking in each class, we're actually losing a little bit of instruction time. So we've actually talked about doing a block schedule where 2 days they'll get 2 hours of instruction time. So they'll have 2 hours of math, 2 hours of language arts, 2 hours of science, 2 hours of social studies, and then flip the days. And so we're saving about we're adding about 15 minutes of instructional time to our classes. Unlike the middle school block scheduling, we're going to do Monday, Wednesday are the same, and Tuesday, Thursday are the same. That way the kids don't have to remember, Today's an A day, today's a B day. They just know Monday and Wednesday, these are the 2 classes I have. Tuesday, Thursday, this is my schedule. And then Fridays, when we have Fridays, they'll see all of their teachers. That way all the teachers can see them before the weekend, catch up with anything, and then send them off for the weekend. If it's a 4-day weekend, we'll just do we'll do the Monday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Thursday. We don't even have to worry about a Friday. Usually we don't have a 3-day week unless we have a snow day. And if that happens, we'll talk and figure out something. If we have a snow day where we're out a couple days that week, we may just do the straight teachers that week. That way we see them amount of time there. And it will be really good. We've actually done this. I've done this with several of the folks a couple years ago, and we actually found kids were able to go deeper into what we're doing, but also we're able to get more accomplished in that class time. Just because they're not worrying about the transition. We are going to do restroom breaks, we're going to do brain breaks, so it's not a solid time, but it allows us flexibility within that time to do multiple levels, multiple types of assignments for different students, different small group settings for them as well within the schedule. And tomorrow, each of the homeroom teachers will give the students to tape inside their planner what that schedule looks like for their homeroom as well. And did you post?
It's on here too if you scroll down.
Yeah, and it's on the website as well by homeroom. So look at that. The planner sheet, if you've not heard about this, this is what we're reminding out. We gave a direct link where if you miss the remind, your student gets home, they didn't fill out their planner, and you're like, hey, personal responsibility. Here is your teacher's planner page. They just scroll down to the colors, so green's at top, blue's on the bottom. They can go in there, and this is what your student sees every day projected. So every teacher fills in what they have. Things that are highlighted are due that day or the next day. Their tests are there. Their assignments are there. They get to copy them down, so they have that time. So when they get home and you go, what did you learn at school today? And they go, nothing. You can go, okay, what's one good thing that happened today? And what's one interesting thing you got caught off of? Because, hey, I know you talked about classifying matter in science. What is matter? Anything that takes up space and has mass. So you matter, right? And they'll just go over their head. But that's a great piece. So you've got the direct link for that. We do try to update that daily. We've actually been updating throughout the day sometimes as things change. As we go, we'll have the general calendar for the grade level with field trips and those pieces on there. Behavior expectations. We are using Capturing the Kids' Hearts. I'm sure they talk to you about social contracts. Anyone hear about social contract? Where they came up with a list of words, they did it in every class. And it's funny how respectful was the #1 word in every class. Impatient was another one from the teachers when they are in conflict. But they came up with a group of words and they agreed as a class, hey, this is what we're going to hold ourselves to. This is how we're going to behave in class. And we refer back to that quite a bit. You can even ask them, hey, is that being very respectful? And they can go, no. Okay, are you listening attentive? Are you paying attention? Are you following directions? So we're using that. They do have a behavior tracker in their planner. It's for the 9 weeks. That way you can see as they go through the 9 weeks, what does their citizenship grade look like? We can tally those up, and we are looking at between behavior, academic pieces, and if they happen to receive several behavior marks in a day or a repeat pattern, we'll reach out to you guys and contact you as well so that you guys know, hey, these things are going on. They should be showing you, but knowing 5th graders, sometimes you may have to ask and say, hey, I'm not from Missouri, but please show me. Hey, if you're here, I gotta make you laugh, right? This is our breakdown. The bottom 2, just kind of pick your hand. The top 2 is really where a lot of the students are gonna fall. If they're keeping consistent with their things, keeping consistent, respectful to others, very few, if any, fall into that bottom range. but we just have to kind of put it out there if they do make it there. And then we do the award, they do awards off that. The grading this year, we actually had a conversation within the homework. We actually combine homework and assignments. So you've got your class assignments, you do have your homework. We've talked about what we're kind of doing in that area, going, is this effective? Is this working? Within each of the teachers' classes. That way we can look at adjusting and fitting the need of the individual students in class. Some students are able to get a lot more, some not. So with that, we went ahead and just combine them as assignments because they do have some importance to it. Now some assignments, I know for me, like vocabulary, it's a little bit different, but hey, you need to know those words because they'll apply to the assessments, the quizzes, the tests. You may use that vocabulary in a reading passage that's another grade as well. So it's supportive within the assignment. So hey, you do this, it supports your assignment, another assignment that you're doing to express and show what you know. Assignment expectations, the teachers will assign them, they'll have them on the morning announcements. The morning announcements, they'll also have, if it's homework or those pieces, the due date of those assignments will also be there. If it's within a class period, they get that class period to work on it. If it's a class assignment, if they happen to not finish that class period in the beginning of the year, they're a little bit slower, so we adjust a little bit. They may have to bring that home and finish it outside of home or outside of class. And we're talking to them about, hey, how are you managing your time? Are you spending all your time talking to your friend? Are you asking when you're distracted for support of headphones and offices? And hey, can I move seats because I chose to sit next to my friend and I'm talking? Hey, things take ownership. You can move those. If a normal assignment becomes late, the same day late, they can complete it at lunch because our lunch is later in the day. The assignment drops to a max of 85. On one day, it's one full class period. So when we go to block, because there's a day in between, we just did class period. So the next class period they come to that class, it's a 70. 2 class periods is a 50, and then after 3, it's 0. I can tell you also, the majority of students, there's only going to be a handful of students that would even fall into the bottom category. We do know that life events happen, and we've all told our students, hey, if those life events happen where you can't get something done, communicate to us. Just like you would, as parents would communicate to a boss, hey, this came up, I'm not going to get this done. Let us know when you know as soon as possible. That way we can start working with you and help you get there. And then late work due from the student, if they were absent, say they had vocab due today, they were absent because they were sick, they had the normal time that everyone else had to finish, it's due on the day they return. So we've got our organization. This year with organization, they've got their planner. We've also gone to the accordion file. One thing we found with binders is papers go in, and if they don't have rings in them or holes in them, or even if they have holes in them, they just get crumbled and crushed, and then they get torn out. With the pocket folders, with the accordion file, it's by class with a graded page. If it's in the graded, they've been told, hey, when you get home with that graded work comes out. No more toting all of your graded work in your binder and all of your extra papers. They can keep them straight, keep them organized, and have their things to a minimum of what they need. They don't have to carry a lot of extra. And that was part of our goal, is to keep it at extra, because if they're moving around from 4 classes, they have their accordion file that has extra paper, they may have their math notebook, they may have their zipper pocket, but if they're carrying the entire Harry Potter series with them to free read, if they have that much time to free read, at this point in the school year, either they're not working or we're not assigning something. So encourage them, hey, just take one book. You don't need to take your entire library. And if they're almost done with the book, hey, why don't you take a different book and finish that one at home, instead of taking one that's got 1 chapter and they're like, oh, I need to take 3 others because I'll read those as well. But we do encourage free reading, but we encourage them to get what's assigned done first, and then go from there and make sure your teachers have said, okay. It breaks down on how the folders are there, the folders and composition for each of the classes that they need, which run with supplies. So I will back off that. Backpacks, we're trying to encourage them to move away from just within us. We got our cubbies thanks to the board and Mr. Sims, who actually just came in. So let's give him a hand. So we actually got some really nice storage for them to work on sharing. And my class actually did a really good job. They're like, hey, I don't want to carry my bag. It's really big. I've got 3 books. Can I put it in here? And we talked about the essentials. What essentially do you need for today's activities? And that's kind of a night planning. Hey, you've got to pack your lunch. What goes in your lunch for tomorrow? What's the essentials you need for school tomorrow? And go ahead and have them packed. That way in the morning when you're tired and 10-year-old angry in the morning because you want to sleep, everything's done. You just get dressed and head out the door. So we've got those. We are going to be doing field trips this year. Right now we are working on...
So there's no more composition of books being carried around?
The accordion file, most of the compositions are being held in class, the ones that are being used. Are you guys?
It depends.
It depends on teacher.
Yeah, no,
It
they're
dep-
carrying
there's
all of them. So
there's a couple of depending. So we'll talk, that'd be a good question to talk individually there. Fall field trip, we're working on going to the Bureau of Engraving and Printing in Fort Worth to see how money is made, because 10-year-olds sometimes think money grows on trees. It's also a great learning experience with just how they go about the process, the steps that go into it, the thought that actually goes into just making the money, but also the thought that goes into the security at the engraving plant is kind of cool too. Forest Glen, our dates are set for April 24th through 26th. That is one that a lot of parents are interested in going to. We do ask that everyone complete the volunteer application and get it turned in here in the fall. January time is really, they do open up the volunteer applications, but it's one that's really hard to get folks through. Right now, these are approximate amounts. It's not a fixed amount yet because we are going to be doing a couple of fundraisers between now and then. These were actually our costs from last year. And just looking at the piece, this is possibly the most that it will be, but it's going to be dependent on what how much fundraising we are able to get, and we will have some information. Okay, it's there. Instead of Red Wheel fundraiser, we're going to actually do a college spirit shirt and jeans day for $1 on Lucky Buck days instead of their uniform shirt. The chaperones, you do have to be 21, criminal background check, physically able to be outside for 2 days for 2 nights and 3 days walking around. Last year it was about 85 to 90 degrees. I walked a total of probably 15 miles during that time. Most of the chaperones did about 7 or 8. And it is outdoors the entire time. They do zip wall, canoeing, kayaking, they have archery, they look at predator and prey, they look at ecology, they look at forestry, they chase frogs in the pond. It's great, everyone gets muddy, everyone gets bit by mosquitoes. It's a wonderful time. And so we've got the information there for the volunteer application of those. And then just the appropriate behavior with chaperones, because you guys are an extension of us while we are there. The food is wonderful. Food is wonderful. Lots of pasta. Lots of pasta.
No.
We are working on a few volunteer opportunities. We're going to be putting some more information out about that as they come up, trying to help you guys get connected into what we're doing. That's one of the things, as long as I've been 5th, 6th, 7th grade, is parents are like, hey, I want to volunteer, but I don't know how. So we're going to actually list a few, both during the school day and outside of the school day, as we're getting there. And we're just beginning of the school year, there's always some finishing touches that have to go on to some things. We do list the awards. Looking towards the end of the year with awards, same as they have been before. They are in the planner this year. They actually list the Bluebonnet, they list the Griffin Goodfellows, the Citizenship Awards, we're already talking about them. I've encouraged everyone in my homeroom to sign up for the morning show DJ role because, hey, you participate in this, it encourages you to get there. A lot of them are like, I don't like talking in front of people. And I'm like, you're talking into a speaker phone and you all like talking on the phone, right? And they're like, yes. I'm like, perfect. Fill the form out. Have your parents sign it. So we've listed those for you guys, and the specials expectations that specials teachers would like us to ask, just to remind your student to be present, to be involved in their specials classes. Be mindful as well, especially since our specials are first and second period with doctor's appointments. If they are always leaving for a doctor's appointment on a Tuesday, they're always going to miss the special they have on Tuesday. And we've had several students where they've gone almost 9 weeks and the special teacher saw them twice. That's also with the importance to being in class on those days, especially be at school by 8:10 so you can drop your stuff off and get to your specials by 8:20, because they only see them that one time for those 4 days throughout the week. They do send sad notes if they happen to get in trouble. They send them home. We will actually attach them inside their planner, so when you see the behavior, you can see the specials teachers as well as we go through. So, lots of information. Like I said, there is some more to this. I wanted to hit the highlights. We are actually really excited about this year, just what we're doing, talking about differentiating, talking about looking at each student's needs and looking at those things. I know Mr. Sims actually sent out, or the district sent out today, a rating with like an A, and then it had a B with student growth, which if you look at just the diversity that we have, that B is actually really, really good. And it probably is almost like 1 or 2 points off of being an A. So looking at that, talking about it, going, hey, what best fits these students in my class might be a little bit different than what fits in some of the other teachers' classes. We have different groups of students. We are all committed to trying to be on the same page, using the same material, trying to do assessments and things on the same schedule. But with special schedules and trainings and those things, we're going to try to keep it within a day or two, if not less than a week time if we can. Just that way we can kind of stick together as a group as we flow through and we can plan and talk as well. So, give that one. Take a couple big questions. Like I said earlier, we do have another group coming in. If it's specific to a child, specific to a teacher with a large group, we want to respect your child's privacy and your privacy around some of those issues. We are more than welcome to schedule appointments. We will also be having parent-teacher conferences coming up on September 14th. So we'll be putting some information out about scheduling those visits as well. Yes, ma'am. If they happen to receive on planner, if they receive a behavioral signing in the planner, they have to show you and get that signed. I've encouraged my students to get their planner signed just once a week. That way it's seen, hey, we checked off for the week as it goes. That's also one between you and them. You can say, hey, I know what your teachers require, but I want to see it every day because you know your child. Hey, I know I need to keep track of you. This first couple weeks, I need to see that you're writing down every day and that you have that information there. So it gives you that little leeway as well.
What is the main way for us to get our communication? Because I'm getting texts, I'm getting remind me, I'm getting emails, sometimes all three of the same information.
If you are on Remind, in the Remind system, if it's the exact same format, you'll want to go into your Remind app and you'll want to adjust how you get it. In the Remind app, it may be set as Remind, text, and email, because Remind will do all three. So you can actually limit it just to email, or just to text, or just to the app. So you can go in and adjust those settings in Remind. Unfortunately, that's user in, not sender in. I have a hard time adjusting it.
How is Griffin time being used this year?
Griffin time we are going to be using for intervention. Interventionists are actually going to start, and we're going to actually do intervention groupings during the intervention time, we're also going to be looking at doing some enrichment and extension for multiple levels as we break into that. That way, it's not just a sit and study, it's actually a, hey, let's work on extending, let's look at different projects, let's look at, I know we've talked briefly about, hey, there's a week of coding, let's do some of those extensions outside of our content areas. That's also one of the areas that we're talking to possibly having some adult volunteers come in and help us with. So, any other questions?
Are you using Google Chromebooks in the class this year?
We are using Google Chromebooks both as a grade level. We actually have 3 full class sets of Chromebooks, and that's 66 Chromebooks. And it's also one, talking between us, teachers may sign up for it, but hey, Mr. Clark needs 6 towards the end of the period. The teacher has them, you've got your kids that are faster finishers, they finish. We can go pull 6, bring them to the room, use them, class period over, take them back. It worked really well last year with having that flexibility with them. Most of the students will be getting a Google school district Google email account. You guys may have seen them use it last year. We encourage you guys to use their login, use their password and log into it. Check with them, see what's going on. One of the things with it is it's a good way for you guys to check and see, hey, what communication is going on, what assignments are there, what can we see, if it's in the Google Classroom, if they're typing up in Word, if they're doing other pieces. It can also be kind of that extra calendar for you. If you want them to go in and use the Google Calendar and start talking to them about planning and those pieces, they have those functions available as well.
So conferences, we set it for everybody on the 14th or just ones that?
We are working out the schedule of that right now. That's one we're still talking. We haven't even had a chance to sit down as a group and talk about, hey, what do we want this to look like? That's on our agenda for the next week. That way, before we go to Labor Day, before we go off for Labor Day, we can kind of have an idea what we need to schedule between now and then, and what scheduling do we need to do before then as well. Yes, ma'am.
Is there other than looking at that schedule, is there a way we can find out? Green has spelling tests on Friday. Green has, science tests on Thursdays. So that we kind of have that in my mind.
On this document right here, when it's assigned, I know for Green and Blue ELAR, when they were assigned the spelling words, this was posted in the sheet. So when it's assigned, when those sort of things are assigned, hey, you've got this test coming up, the teachers notify the students, it will be in the planner on the first day it's assigned.
Is it always going to be on a Thursday? Maybe that's a better question.
That's going to be specific to the individual teacher on that one.
So we need to check it every day.
Well, on this one, the student should be writing down every day. If your student is very on top of using the planner and those pieces, you can talk to them on that. And having them say, hey, when is this due? Where is that due? And really encouraging them to stay on top of those pieces. If you know your student struggles with that, I would say, hey, I'm going to look at this every day until we get you to a point that's there. It's also one, all of the teachers, if you're, hey, my kid's still struggling with this calendar schedule thing, what can we talk about and do? We can come together and talk about it as well. Any other
poems
questions?
this year?
Say again?
Are they memorizing poems this year?
You should have received a paper on the first day of school that listed everything about reading class.
Okay.
And if for some reason, I'm sure she gave it to you because she's really responsible, didn't, then I have some extra copies and I'll be happy to give you one.
Okay, a couple more. Like I said, I'm excited for this year. I'm excited to have you guys with us. From the rest of the team, I want to say thank you for coming out. Those of you that watch the video, like it, click right here. YouTube, subscribe. No? Okay. So thank you for coming. Have a wonderful evening.
Mr. Clark, I was going to touch, did everybody get to stand up and actually say who they are and what they teach?
Yes, he introduced us.